Want to teach your kids financial literacy, but not sure where to start? Greenlight can help. With Greenlight, parents can keep an eye on kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens use a card of their own to build money confidence. As a parent, you can send instant money transfers, set up chores, automate allowance, and more. It's a convenient way to run your household, customized to your family's needs, and the easy way to raise financially smart kids. Get started with Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Save on O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner. Get 2 cans of O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner for just $8. Valid in-store only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Yo, man, there's a lot of brothers out there flaking and perpetrating, but scared to kick reality.
Slate's Joel Anderson still remembers how he first caught a glimpse of the rapper Ice Cube. It was the late 80s. Joel was like 11 or 12 years old, living in the suburbs of Houston.
So what you want me to do?
I can't remember if it was 88 or 89 when I first saw the Express Yourself video by NWA.
I'm expressing with my full capabilities, and now I'm living in...
And it used to come on Yo MTV Raps pretty regularly.
This video was like nothing Joel had seen before.
Like, I think the way it starts off, like the opening images are some people picking cotton, and then all of a sudden you see Dr. Dre and Ice Cube bust through this banner.
The banner actually reads, "I have a dream." The NWA crew demolishes it.
Blame it on Ice Cube because he said it get funky when you got a subject and a predicate, add it on a dope beat.
And from the moment I saw that, and Ice Cube, I don't know, like, he just looked like one of the toughest people in the world.
He had you at hello.
He had me at hello. Actually, it was more like, I'm expressing with my full capabilities, you know what I'm saying? But that was Dre. But then when Ice Cube comes on, even still, like the whole thing just totally appealed to preteen Joel.
Back then, Joel was a black kid going to white schools, trying to figure himself out. Ice Cube's group, NWA, was releasing songs like Fuck the Police. Controversial stuff, but Cube also seemed like he really wanted to represent something. He looked down on rappers who forgot about the ghetto and rapped for the pop charts.
You know, you hear Ice Cube who says, "Oh, be proud of yourself, black man. You don't have to bow down to nobody." So I took a lot of strength in that. I was like, "Oh, okay, I feel sort of righteous by being in here and going into these spaces and excelling."
Over the years, Joel's watched as Ice Cube made questionable choices, like shilling for a malt liquor brand. But he's mostly seen Cube through the eyes of a fan. Was there a moment when you realized, whoa, this guy who I idolized as a kid, he's changed?
I think really, when he just started meeting with Trump.
Our next guest is Ice Cube. If you know anything about him, and you probably do, you know he started his career rapping in defiance about police presence.
This was in 2020, the last time Trump was running for office. And Ice Cube's support was a bit of an October surprise. After meeting with the White House, it was reported that Ice Cube had gotten Trump to agree to invest $500 billion in black communities if he won.
Some people called you a sellout. Some people said you were working with the dark side.
That's their opinion. They obviously don't know the facts or won't accept the facts. I told everybody that, I'm not playing politics with this.
I'm just openly casting about and showing that he had some interest in dealing with the Trump administration. And I'm just like, wait a minute, that's not who you're supposed to be, right? That's not the Ice Cube that I know and love. One of his former group mates, Eazy-E, not long after Ice Cube broke with that group, he criticized Eazy-E for meeting with George Bush. Like, Eazy-E, known as Eric Wright, went to a fundraiser with George Bush there, and Ice Cube clowned him for it.
Yeah, I think he said, "I'll never meet with the president."
I'll never meet with the president. Yeah. It could be that maybe I was delusional, that maybe I didn't see the signs all along.
Today on the show, you know that old phrase, never meet your heroes? Well, Joel Anderson met Ice Cube, and it showed him a lot about Trump's message to black men and who exactly that message appeals to. I'm Mary Harris. You're listening to What Next? Stick around. This show is brought to you by Discover. Have you heard about Doublenomics? It's okay if you haven't. It's extremely niche and practiced by Discover. Here's an example. Discover automatically doubles the cash back earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. That means with Discover, you could turn $150 cash back into $300. It pays to Discover. See terms at discover.com/creditcard. This show is brought to you by Public. If you are looking for simple yet sophisticated investing, Public.com says click on over and check them out. From stocks to options, bonds to crypto, it is all there. You can even earn an industry-leading 5.1% APY on your cash. Public is trusted by millions of investors, and NerdWallet just gave Public 4.6 stars and calls it an impressive experience. Sign up in 2 minutes at Public.com. All your investing in one place. This is a paid advertisement for Public Investing, 5.1% APY as of June 17th, 2024, and is subject to change. NerdWallet overall rating 4.6 out of 5 as of May 2024. Full disclosures in the podcast description. This election cycle, Trump has been making a concerted play for black votes, trying to peel them away from Kamala Harris and the Democrats. The percentage of his black supporters actually did rise from 8 to 12% between 2016 and 2020. But 12% is still not all that high. And Trump's latest line of attack on Kamala Harris, telling a room full of black journalists that she is not really black, let's just say that's a big swing, one that could play to racial divisions or lose him the constituency altogether. One arguably more successful move has been his wooing of black celebrities, from baseball player Darryl Strawberry to rapper Kanye West. At first, Joel couldn't really believe Ice Cube would be part of this cohort, but he says looking back, even in the 90s, Cube showed a certain openness to being bought.
It was less about the music and what he did around this time. And so this is, near the peak of his fame around 93 or 94. So malt liquor, like the influx of malt liquor into black communities and liquor stores was a huge debate. And it was a real sore spot for people. And people thought that these companies are targeting us in marketing to us because they want us to poison ourselves. They want to make us drunks, right? And what Ice Cube did is that he signed an endorsement deal with one of those malt liquor makers, St. Ides. And it was just like, wait a minute. Aren't you Muslim?
He even wrote songs for them, right?
Oh, he did a whole mixtape of songs for St. Ides.
Ice Cube in the glass house headed for the stove to get a beer that's better than the rest. The ST period IDE to the S, and then it put hair on your chest.
It was crazy. And it was just like, wait a minute. Like, what is Ice Cube doing here? Like, aren't you Muslim? Like, Muslims aren't supposed to be drinking alcohol anyway. Why are you the face of this brand? And he just said, hey, man, St. Ides is paying. And it's just like, oh, if you can rationalize that in that time, it's not hard to believe that Ice Cube might not get behind some other things that people might consider harmful to black folks.
Yeah. I wonder if you think it was kind of easy to overlook that stuff as it was happening because he was one of a few prominent black artists willing to call out what the black experience felt like in America.
Absolutely. And I thought Ice Cube gave the right white people hell, Republican Party, racist, cops, stuff like that. And I was like, well, as long as he's going at them harder than anybody else, then everything else is probably okay.
Even with some of these earlier signs, a lot of Ice Cube's fans were shocked when he announced he was working with Trump. It all started when Cube released a plan he called the Contract with Black America.
This is 13-point blueprint that he came up with in consultation with some other fairly well-respected black academics.
What I didn't hear is what's in it for us? What's in it for the black community besides the same old thing we've been getting from these parties.
And it was all meant to improve the economic prospects of Black Americans. And if you look in there, it's actually some pretty progressive legislation.
Like what?
Like abolishing privately run prisons, freeing all prisoners convicted of marijuana possession, like requiring broadcast networks to set aside 20% of their airtime for Black produced content. Like there's a lot of stuff in there. Affirmative action. It called for, making affirmative action the law of the land. So, I mean, I'm still curious to know like why he thought that Donald Trump would be interested in implementing those as policy goals. But at a minimum, the Trump administration, because they're thirsty to any Black celebrity that will reach out to them, and they had some meetings with him. They said, well, hey, yeah, come on in. Let's talk about this stuff.
Yeah, and it sounds like the Biden campaign met with him too, but the Biden campaign was more like, okay, we'll get back to you after the election. But it's so funny you use that word thirsty. That's exactly what was in my mind. But the Trump campaign was just like, no, we're all on board. Let's really meet. Let's like hash this out.
Yeah. They invited this team to the White House and they had these Zoom meetings and everything else. And they made Ice Cube feel important in a way that the Biden campaign did not. And I think that was important to Cube, that he wanted to be treated as a serious person with serious things to say about the world, because he's been treated that way basically for the last 35 years. So it's not a surprise that, if the White House, I mean, this is the incumbent president, is willing to listen to you and talk to you about some of your policy goals, that he was sort of open to that.
In the end, what did Trump agree to do if he was reelected?
So Trump said that he released this. I mean, it's just so goofy, man. The Platinum Plan for Black America. And hey, look, I'm sure. I mean, maybe platinum is a value neutral term of describing it, but I just can't help but think he's like, I'm sure Black people like, they like platinum jewelry. I hear some of the rappers like that stuff. So let's call it the Platinum Plan.
It is pretty dark.
Plan for
it's
Black
pretty
America.
dark.
Yeah. But anyway, basically, he's like, hey, I'm going to give you $500 billion that are going to go to Black communities and businesses and things of that nature. Like none of the stuff that Ice Cube was talking about really ended up in this plan. And actually, if you go look for the Platinum Plan for Black America, it's no longer on Trump's website. So he has that as soon as he was not running for president anymore, it appears that his interest in that went away. Did
he endorse Trump in the end?
No, he kind of did what he's been doing, which is like, hey, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, and I just want to get what I can get from my people, but people have to make up their own mind. And, he says things like, well, people know what he used to say, well, people know Joe Biden. People know who Biden is. People know who Trump is. And so they're going to make their decision accordingly. But, that's really tepid from a dude who made his living telling you that he was a guy that wasn't afraid to be who he was in public.
Yeah. Back when this whole Platinum Plan thing was going on, Ice Cube did go on Twitter to try to explain himself because people really were shocked and were adding him all over the place to just be like, what the hell happened here, man? And the way he put it was that every side is the dark side for us here in America. Basically saying, like, I have to work with what I have politically.
Mm-hmm.
I get the sense you actually you understand that perspective a bit.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, racism can make you crazy, man. And you're always trying to come up with plans or blueprints for how you can work around it. And some people come to the idea that, well, man, I need to make Democrats take me seriously. And one way they'll take me seriously is if I defect. And there are a lot of people that believe that. I don't necessarily believe that that's effective, but there are a lot of people that seem to think that is a route to Black empowerment. And especially among Black nationalists who are sort of cynical about the American project anyway. And I might add that Clarence Thomas, this is where a lot of his politics comes out of too. That basically that white people are never going to treat Black people as equals, and that we might as well go on trying to do it all ourselves.
I'm so glad you said that because I had a question here about that. You did a whole slow burn series about Clarence Thomas, and I wondered if in talking to and about Ice Cube, you saw similarities in how these guys were thinking about things.
Yeah, at certain points. Like, I mean, obviously, Cube hasn't gone nearly as far as Clarence Thomas, but maybe that's just because he's not a Supreme Court justice, right? But no, Clarence Thomas, when he first started out, like after he first considered becoming a Catholic priest, he got very involved in Black activist politics. He protested police abuse, advocated for set-asides for Black students at Holy Cross College, where he went to undergrad. So Clarence Thomas like knows a lot about Black national politics, and I think that like initially his conversion to the Republican Party was like, well, these people take me seriously and they're giving me a job and some money. And look, I mean, we don't have anybody on our side in this country. Like at the end of the day, a lot of Black people, including Clarence Thomas and Ice Cube, think we're on our own anyway. So we've got to make our own deals. We got to figure out a way around it. And that's how you end up there. But I don't want to imply that Ice Cube is Clarence Thomas, that he's gone nearly that far. But I can see how he ended up in conversations with the Trump administration when I think about it like that.
When we come back from the break. So where's Ice Cube at now? This episode is brought to you by SAP. First, the bad news. SAP Business AI will not help you generate cubist versions of your family's holiday photos, but it will help you understand which supplier is best to help you roll out your plant-based packaging in Southeast Asia, or identify the training your junior project manager needs to rise up the ranks, or automate repetitive tasks while you focus on big innovations. So you can be ready for the next opportunity. Revolutionary technology, real-world results. That's SAP Business AI. This episode is brought to you by SAP. First, the bad news. SAP Business AI will not help you generate cubist versions of your family's holiday photos, but it will help you understand which supplier is best to help you roll out your plant-based packaging in Southeast Asia, or identify the training your junior project manager needs to rise up the ranks, or automate repetitive tasks while you focus on big innovations. So you can be ready for the next opportunity. Revolutionary technology, real-world results. That's SAP Business AI. Interestingly, after this whole Platinum Plan Trump thing that Ice Cube did, his dabbling in conservatism, it didn't end. Like in the last few months, he's been on Tucker Carlson's show on, I guess we're calling it X now.
But I've been shut out. You know, some platforms will not have me on.
Why?
They don't like that I'm, an independent thinker. I'm not part of the herd. I'm not part of the go along to get along gang, so to speak.
And he's talked about how he didn't get vaccinated, his lack of trust in the establishment. And that's interesting to me because that is not about just the kind of, I'm going to get what I can. Like, look at me. I got, $500 million committed to Black communities. It's not about that. It's more about like a cultural affinity, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, I think that he has sort of cozied up to this bright manosphere. Like, there's this strain of kind of male identity politics that's driven by transphobia, LGBTQ rights, the COVID pandemic and the vaccination stuff. Like all these people are just sort of kind of coming together, like the Elon Musk of the world too. Like all these people are just sort of like in this confab that's going on here.
Do you think that it's harder to be a man in America now than it was when you were a kid?
Yes. Saying what you feel, being yourself, is what they call toxic. We shouldn't be called toxic for our instincts and for, I was born this way. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, Why can't we be ourselves? We were born this way too.
It really is a testosterone-fueled thing, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. And sort of this resentment of women not knowing their place and, women that are not married have no value and that sort of stuff. Like you can just really see that like this sort of really regressive, misogynist politics kind of hardening. And there's a lot of factors that are going into it. But yeah. And so I can absolutely see how Ice Cube is like sort of found legion with Joe Rogan. And the thing about Joe Rogan, even though he had to apologize for saying the N-word all the time on his podcast, he's tried to hold himself out as sort of like this arbiter of fairness and that he's in the middle and all the people on both sides are crazy, even though he only ever seems to criticize the folks on the left.
What if like LeBron said he wanted to play in the WNBA? Like, I'm retiring from the NBA because I'm 49 and I'm going to play in the WNBA.
Well, they wouldn't be able to stop it. If he just decided to say publicly, I identify as a woman, what are they going to do? They can't do anything. And then that would be the end. That would be.
And so I could see Cube being sort of like, well, this guy has will hear me out and we'll have an interesting conversation, which I think, look, man, far be it from me to criticize Joe Rogan. I don't listen to his show that often, but that episode was terrible. It was really boring.
Eventually, you were able to get an interview with Ice Cube.
I was.
One of the things I thought was interesting was that the PR person wanted you to agree ahead of time that there would be no discussion of politics and no discussion of religion. And it seemed weird to me because like Ice Cube had literally just gone on Tucker Carlson, and just appearing on that show is a political statement, I think. But in that conversation, he'd said it's silly not to talk to people. Like whether we agree or not has nothing to do with it. Let's talk, let's debate, which is kind of the opposite of what he wanted to do with you, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that they wanted it to be sort of a hagiography and that they want to talk more about his career, through the lens of the Slow Burn Productions, right? And I also think that, he goes into those places to be expressly political. When he's not doing that stuff, like when he can't talk with people that he sort of assumes to be like-minded or that are really going to welcome him and not be critical, if he's not doing that, then he's ready to pitch the big three.
Talk about his basketball league.
And talk about his basketball league with me.
What was the most revealing part of that conversation for you?
I really think that when he talked about always sort of knowing, like he always just sort of had a knack, right, for telling stories and knowing what was going to be the next thing. And I was like, that kind of does explain it, right? That like you can sort of morph if necessary.
And now he's morphing to the right.
Yeah, he's morphing to the right. Sometimes the other side, man, it looks pretty good when they say, hey, man, we think you're special. Why don't you come over here? It's a really powerful appeal. And I wouldn't have thought that, especially growing up, man. I really just thought this like, no, man, you if you're down with your people, you're down with your people, And like, it doesn't matter how much the money gets in the way or your family obligations or anything that changes in your social station, that you're connected to your people. But no, I was like, oh, no, wait, those white folks you tried to warn us about, Cube, like they'll come get you. They'll come get you. And they got you. I thought you were better than that.
What do you think Cube would have said if you'd said that to his face?
I don't know, man. That's a good one. I don't know. He doesn't like the implication that he's a sellout. I'll tell you that. And I can understand why, because I'm looking at the 13-point plan, and he's like, can't you see all this stuff that I'm trying to get for my people? And I'm like, bro, but like, who are you making these deals with, though? Like, what makes you think that these people are going to honor the commitments they've made to you? When have they ever shown you that? Cube, like, you're smarter than this. Like, like, you told me about, like, how tricky the white folks are. You knew this. And, like, yet still you fell for it.
He might say Joe Biden's just as tricky as all the rest.
I mean, and there's something to be said for that. I mean, it's easy for a person like that, and me too, to look at like, years of allegiance to the Democratic Party and to think, man, but what has it really gotten us? But then like, you do, a modicum's worth of research and you see that like, not only have they like advocated for programs that have helped Black people and helped Black communities, but that also that like at a baseline, like even if they do nothing, it is better than being regressive. And like, that's sort of the practicality to me, where I'm just like, well, at least they're not trying to harm us. Like that is sort of my political calculus here. I know there are a lot of people that may think that even that in itself is a sellout and that like, I shouldn't I should divorce myself from Democratic politics or whatever, and not have any faith that the Democratic Party is actually interested in us. And I do think that there's real questions about that. Like, are they committed to making the material conditions for Black people in this country better? Like, do they actually want to do it? I don't think so, but I think that that's a race problem, not a political party problem. And politics is the means by which I try to prevent white people that are antagonistic to my people and my community, is by which I restrain them from their worst impulses. Like, that's the political calculus I'm making. But I can understand how somebody else might end up somewhere else.
How has Kamala Harris's sudden ascent as the presumptive Democratic nominee changed how you think about your conversation with Ice Cube and your reporting on it? Because we've talked about like how the conversion story he represents, it's like a hyper masculine thing. Obviously, Kamala Harris is a woman, but she's also a Black woman. And, you know, as reporters try to make sense of what's going on right now, I've noticed them going back to people they've talked to before, people who are like on the fence, like maybe I'll vote for Trump, especially Black men. And there seems to be some interest in like, Kamala Harris is interesting. Do you think that shift is real? Do you think it is worth talking about in the context of your conversation with Ice Cube?
That's tough. I don't want to make too many presumptions about that thing. I mean, if I had to guess, do I think that he's going to be a full-throated supporter for Kamala Harris? Absolutely not.
Just because he's already been out there for Trump?
Yeah, I don't think he's a Democrat. I think that he thinks the Democrats are weak and, that they pander too much to the sort of people that are marginalized, but that Ice Cube doesn't identify with. And so I don't think he would ever explicitly come out and endorse Donald Trump. I really don't. I don't think he would do that. But I think that he leaves open the idea, and he suggests as much, that he's like, I don't have a problem with it if he wins. Which, for a lot of people is as good as endorsing him.
Joel, I'm super grateful for your time. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, of course. Anytime, Mary.
Joel Anderson is a staff writer at Slate. He's also the host of seasons 3, 6, and 8 of Slow Burn. His latest piece is called What Happened to Ice Cube? You can read it at slate.com. All right, that's the show. What Next is produced by Paige Osburn, Elena Schwartz, Rob Gunther, Madeline Ducharme, and Anna Phillips. We are led by Alicia Montgomery with a little boost from Susan Matthews. Ben Richmond is the Senior Director of Podcast Operations here at Slate, and I'm Mary Harris. Thanks for listening. Catch you back here next time.
Be warned that once you pick up a refreshingly cold drink from McDonald's and people see just how refreshingly cold that drink from McDonald's is, you may create drink envy. Because there are drinks, then there are drinks from McDonald's.
For a morning brew that really creates a stir, get any size iced coffee, including caramel and French vanilla, for just 99 cents before 11 a.m. Price and participation may vary, cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.